We've been in a cycle of wet weather, and as you can see, the clouds have constantly been rolling in and giving us thunderstorms and wet weather and then warm weather. So the vegetation has really taken off. And not only the vegetation, but something else. Something that my wife quite enjoys and really likes. So I decided to make a video for her. In August, there's a couple little animals that come out, and they're quite prolific this year because of the wet weather and the warmth. And I'll show them to you. There's a problem though, and I'll show you that too. So here we go. The wood frog and the Canadian toad. What happens during this cycle of wet weather is that, and especially this time of year, the frogs are in the lawn, and you have to mow your lawn, and it's just awful. I mean, it's just frog carnage everywhere, and it takes quite a while if you're being careful not to mow down wood frogs and toads. I don't like doing it, but I mean, you just can't help it. There's so many of them, and you're constantly stopping. The most common frog you'll see is the wood frog. They're kind of an interesting frog. They range all the way from Appalachia all the way up to the Arctic Circle in Alaska and Canada and in our area. They're very prolific. They're the most common frog you'll see, and they're just nice to have around. Yeah, I picked him up. He was very gentle. He didn't seem to mind being in my hand after I caught him. There's nothing wrong with holding them. It's a myth. There's a lot of people that think you'll get warts from holding them in your hand, which is a wives' tale. It's not true. Interestingly enough, the dogs don't bother them, the cats don't bother them. But if I allowed the chickens to be out, there would be no frogs, not even the toads. I don't think a chicken can eat a toad, but they would definitely kill them. The chickens are kind of like velociraptors for frogs. They just eat them up, and it's really good to have frogs around. Even though the chickens do a good job of cleaning up the insects, it's also nice to have the native frogs doing their job. So, especially this time of year, I like to keep the chickens pinned up and don't let them out. Not just for that reason, they get into other stuff too. This isn't the only amphibian that is in the lawn right now. The other amphibian that I like is the toad, and I think it's the Canadian toad. There's other toads, but I think the one I'm seeing most commonly is the Canadian toad, and they're another interesting little toad. And I think in North America they kind of dip down into the area that we live in, and it's kind of interesting. They're a funny little amphibian. They got quite, well, as you can see, they're very hard to handle. You can't keep them pinned down. They're always moving. I had a tough time videoing them, but they just don't like to stay in your hand. They won't sit still like frogs will. They got to be moving, and they're interesting to watch. Especially if you're mowing, you stop and they're trying to get out of the way, and kind of feel sorry for them. So You just gotta wait and let them hop out of the way. This little toad just didn't want to be videotaped. He just wasn't having it. So eventually I just took him and put him in my hand, and I took him to the tall grass and threw him out there. As you can see, he was not happy. It's a good sign that they're everywhere in my yard. It means I have a healthy environment for them. As you can see, they're everywhere. And this little guy didn't have a choice but to be videotaped. He was kind of a big one. I seen another big one, but I couldn't catch him before he went into the tall grass. As you can see, they move pretty quick. He's stuck in the wheelbarrow, so he can't get out. I eventually caught him, and they're kind of, all of them have a different color. Some of them are darker, some of them are lighter, some of them are kind of reddish, some of them are green. They're interesting little amphibian for sure. I'm certain it's the long winters that cause me to enjoy the frogs and the toads. They're kind of funny little animals. Them being the first thing that comes out in the spring and starts making noise is an indication that warm weather's coming, and after a long winter, that's a pretty good feeling. Knowing that they do a good job of taking care of insects is another good thing about them. You know you have a healthy environment if you've got them around. And they're just fun to watch. I kind of had a lot of fun making this video. Felt like a kid chasing frogs around the yard. It's kind of funny. The dogs thought I lost my mind. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've gotten this far, thank you for watching. And hopefully you don't think I'm a nut. But anyway, have a good night, good evening, wherever you're at. Thank you.